Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Let's go so we can get everybody out of here and back out in the heat. Um, the first item on the agenda, I've asked Ms. Crary to give us an update of what she can on the CRA and how things are proceeding. And like I've told you in the past, from time to time, I'm going to ask each chair of each committee to likewise give us an update as to how things are going with their committees. So, Ms. Crary, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of updates. We've completed the environmental cleanup on 312 Main Street, former comedy club, and also the demolition. So now we're entertaining plans from developers on that site. And then we move up Main Street to 518, 520, where the parking lot now is, and the parking kiosk went into operation yesterday. So we gave a few months of free time there, and now from 8 to 6 there will be a charge, nominal, be $1 per hour, and I think there's a 2-hour limit on that because we want to keep people moving and in for appointments, and that's one of the reasons we created it, to patronize the businesses on Main Street. And it's free on weekends and evenings because we want to encourage everybody, our residents, to come there at night. And there's no overnights. We don't want to get into the apartment dwellers and other people that live there. They have other places. And that would be it at this time.
Okay. Any questions from council?
I have one.
Yes.
So for free evenings, that starts at 6 p.m.?
Yes.
Anything else from council? Let's move on to item number 2. This is a local government infrastructure financing program. Michelle Saylor. Ms. Saylor, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. President. Ordinance 1876 is the required ordinance for you to adopt for us to participate in the State of Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development local government infrastructure financing program. So the projects that were adopted in the FY17 capital improvement program in May, and as noted for their financing or funding source, we have $5,134,000 in projects that we would like to fund with this program. This would be our fourth time participating in this program. We have a good working relationship with the state of Maryland and the representative from the program. When we had discussed financing after the CIP was adopted, I solicited information and quotes, interest rates from Revere Bank, PNC Bank, and the CDA program. PNC and the state program had the same interest rate of 1.85% at that time. Revere was a little bit higher. So the recommendation to the mayor was to proceed with the state program since we had used PNC in February when we did the refinancing of existing loans and the new loan for the 2 streets and the trash truck. There are 6 jurisdictions, including the city of Laurel, planning to participate. Would be a $28 million bond sale. They provide the bond counsel, and we've had to supply information and do tax due diligence questionnaires. They need to make sure that the purpose for the money qualifies under tax exempt guidelines with the IRS. So these are all public buildings, public streets. So we're certainly well within that parameter. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Questions from council? Mr. Smalls. Ms. Crary. Mr. Lowe.
Yeah, this is good. Interest rate's great, but I'll note that this is what the some on the Hill want to do away with these bonds.
Yes.
They want, in fact, to make them taxable, and the interest rate will reflect that if they do it, because of course this represents what 1.75 or what is this going to be, around 1.75?
The interest rate?
Yeah.
They're looking at between 1.75 and 2.
I mean, that represents a taxable, for somebody's in the 42% bracket, that represents a return of almost 4%. So again, it is a shame if the Congress does away with this type of financing, it will hurt communities, and I think we've seen NLC has lobbied extensively against that. Good job, Ms. Michelle, good job.
Thank you.
Aren't the banks by law required to do these types of things? Or do you know?
Yeah, that's the Community Reinvestment Act. This
That's what I'm
counts.
talking.
Yeah, this counts. But the fact that they're tax exempt makes it more attractive to their customers, because they parse them out is what they do.
Yeah. Ms. Nicholas,
No questions.
thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Saylor.
Thank you.
This will be on our agenda for the upcoming meeting. We'll move on to item number 3, consideration of a bid and recommendation for purchase of 3 police vehicles. Mr. Free, did you come back from vacation for this?
Sure. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, the Department of Public Works has put together a recommendation to purchase 3 marked police cars. These cars will not increase the fleet and are part of the replacement program. Criswell Chevrolet was awarded the state of Maryland contract for Chevrolet Impalas, each at a cost of $25,666 each. In the funding, I had 2016, but it should be the FY 2017 through 2022 capital improvement program. So it is recommended that we award a contract for a total cost of $76,998 to Criswell.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Crary, any questions? Mr. Les? Ms. Nicholas?
Question. So you said it's scheduled replacement. What happens, are there 3 cars that are going out,
Yes.
and where will they go?
They'll either be traded in or just got disposed of. They will not be part of the city's fleet anymore.
Thank you.
Mr. Smalls?
I have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Free. Move on to item number 4. This is a review of the City of Laurel's master plan. You all have had it for a week or so to start to peruse it, and I believe that Mr. Brock is going to present this for us tonight.
I think if you hit the right button, it should work. We'll try it. Give it a shot. You want it to the front? Yeah. If not, just say next slide.
Good evening, Mr. Brock. Guess you got him.
In July 2015, the mayor appointed a master plan review committee. The committee met August the 25th, 2015 through March the 22nd, 2016 to draft and prepare a master plan. The committee held a public hearing on April 5th, 2016 and recommended approval of the draft master plan with the additions made at the meeting to the City of Laurel Planning Commission. Copies of the plan were forwarded to the Maryland Historic Trust, the Department of Transportation, Environment, Natural Resources, Commerce, Housing and Community Development, and Agriculture. Written comments have been received from the Maryland Department of Planning, Maryland Department of the Environment, and Natural Resources. Recommendations of each of these jurisdictions have been included in the final draft. It is the recommendation of the Planning Commission that met on June 14, 2016, that the mayor and city council approve and adopt the 2016 master plan of the City of Laurel. The Laurel master plan was updated November the 26th, 2007, and amended to include a water resources element September 28, 2009, roughly 9 years ago. It's our regional location, which is approximately in the center of the state, and the study area is municipal boundaries of the city. Between 2000 and 2010, the city increased from a population of 19,960 to 25,115, a 25.8% increase. And since 2010 to 2015, the population has again increased to 26.1 thousand residents. The unemployment rate of the city increased from 26.6 to 3.5 between 2000 and 2010, while Prince George's County increased from 4.1 to 6.1. In 2000, the total housing units in the city was 9,548. In 2010, this increased to 10,919, an additional 1,371 units, for a total increase of 14.3%. Of this, 291 are single-family detached, 420 single-family attached, 197 2 to 4 unit plexes, 603 10 units, and a 22% increase in apartments with 10 or more units. These are the occupied units. In 2000, 94% of the housing units were occupied. In 2010, 96% of the units were occupied.
Excuse me, Mr. Brock. If the council has any questions, you want them to stop?
Yes, please.
Okay.
This is the number of housing units that have been constructed since 2010. 2013, there were 142 multifamily units, 583 in 2014, and 344 in 2015. And in 2016, there should be well over 1,000 units completed of multifamily. The city is currently made up of a total of approximately 3,027 acres or 4.73 square miles. 308.8 acres have been increased or annexed into the city since the 2007 master plan. Residential land use comprises 33%, commercial, which includes retail, office, and service delivery uses, is 14%. Public and institutional, which includes open space, hospitals, public buildings, occupied 26% of the city. Mixed-use transportation is 2.9%. Industrial, 5%. And vacant land, there's only 82 acres in the entire city, or 2.7, which remains vacant. The remaining 490 acres, that's streets, public rights-of-ways, and the likes. The city contracted with Valbridge Property Advisor to analyze the physical impacts of the annexation of certain properties at or near the city's current border. Based on available data, Valbridge concluded that the proposed annexation overall are modestly more than break even in the annexation as specified properties are redeveloped or developed with a higher value. This shows
Excuse me, Mr. Brock. Mr. Smalls has a question.
If you could go back to that previous pie chart.
Sorry.
I'm curious to know, of the vacant land, how much of that 3% is actually developable?
That would be difficult to say. There's a lot that is steep slope, such as the one on Montgomery where there's some acreage, or wet.
Got it. That's what I thought. And in looking at the commercial and the mixed use, is there anything in the master plan that is recommending or proposing to expand any of those areas? Say, for example, the 14% that's commercial. Is the master plan in any way recommending that we add to that commercial?
It does.
Okay.
It's recommending that there be an increase in mixed use.
Mhm.
Of the one change to the future land use map, it includes one area that is recommended. Currently, it's a antiquated plan unit development that is vacant. And it's recommending that that be MXT, which would allow a mixed-use transportation just north of Conti and Van Duzen.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
This is the map that's required by state statutes. We are required to identify those areas of which there was a potential to annex property in the next planning period, which is 10 years. The dark blue are areas that are recommended to be annexed in order to straighten up the property, the boundary lines of the city. The light blue are intermediate areas that are recommended there also to straighten out the boundaries. And then the yellowish area is an area recommended for future study, not currently recommended for annexation. And the conclusion of Valbridge was that, looking at the analysis, that there would be a break even of expenditures versus revenues if all of these areas were annexed. That top left by the cloverleaf at 198 and Interstate 95 is one area that's recommended for changing it from plan unit development to the MXT designation. That would allow the property to be rezoned to MXT at some time in the future. Without that designation, you could not do that.
Would that be by the green and yellow and red off to the far right?
Doesn't work, does it? It's at the top left, the dashed area, right there by coming down the interstate.
Yep.
There are recommended goals, objectives, and policies. I can go over those if you like. Otherwise, that concludes the PowerPoint.
The council, yes, that'd be great. No, I said it'd be fine.
Continue?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The goals and objectives and policies, the review committee recommended several new objectives. Under the land use, first one is collaborate with adjacent jurisdictions to ensure coordinated land use patterns, connected transportation networks, continuous environmental networks, particularly during the preparation of master sector and functional plans. And this is a recommendation to collaborate with contiguous jurisdictions when we do racetrack developments and the like. Historic preservation, objective, undertake a historic structural survey and analysis to document historical significant properties located outside the historic district that warrants consideration for preservation, which reflects elements of cultural, social, economic, political, or architectural history of the city. The purpose of this is to look at structures that are currently not within a historic district, see if they may be considered to be designated as a historic structure. And this was a request of the Historic District Commission. Second objective of the historic preservation is continue to provide incentives to encourage the preservation and or adaptive reuse of historic resources. Community facilities objectives support the local art and entertainment district as well as future art and entertainment districts to foster interactions among artists and art-related business opportunities. Continue to support local artists and art organizations and attract new artists through incentives such as live work, affordable housing. Increase opportunities for artists to participate in the delivery of public services, the planning and design of capital improvements, and in the design and delivery of public information. Underwater resources. The city will cooperate with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Maryland Department of the Environment to remove fallen trees that obstruct the free flow of water in the Patuxent River watershed adjacent to the city municipal boundary, as well as downstream to limit flooding, erosion, and provide for a healthy river ecosystem. Continue to fully engage with the Washington Suburban Sanitation Commission to ensure cooperation in planning for water release from the H. Duckett Dam to minimize flooding during storms, provide adequate water supply for citizens, and to ensure a healthy ecosystem through the watershed. Under transportation, support the implementation of a transit-oriented development through effective partnership with state agencies, local jurisdictions, and private sectors. Objective, continue to support the development of the Laurel train station, a state-designated TOD, into a mixed-use transit-oriented development to include multifamily residential, retail, commercial, professional business office, and structured parking. Continue to be a strong and vocal advocate for the retention of the existing full MART station level at the Laurel Street Station. Increase transit ridership to support transportation networks, efficiencies, and reduce traffic congestion, and support the use of transportation alternatives, including transit availability by bicycles and pedestrians. I think you would agree that these are timely objectives.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Yes, Mr. Prayer.
Any issues or other than general ones, any groups addressing, it sounds like some groups came in and addressed the master plan committee.
Yes.
Any groups coming in from Ward 2?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. It appears that it was a concern, at least looking at the charts, almost 50% in the studied areas rentals. We're up to 49 point. So that's a huge, and we're adding more rentals, so that affordable housing and moderate dwelling is going to be a major concern
Yes.
in the city, especially looking at the income of our residents. Go
Well,
ahead.
Currently, the affordable housing is 3%. The workforce housing is 3%. There was a recommendation that it was an objective that be looked at, possibly increasing the percentage. Other communities are as high as 6% each.
And there was below 25,000, I think it was 17% of our residents, and then 25 to 50,000, I think it was, I don't know, 26% or something. Those would be counted separately, I assume.
Yes.
So it would be about 40%, give or take, 2010 to 2015 of our residents are in that range, up to 50,000.
That would be correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Levis.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 113, daycare centers, you need to double check Pilates Day Nursery and St. Mary of the Mills. I don't know whether St. Mary's is still running a before and after school care at the elementary school. They may be, but the Pilates Day Nursery, I think, is called either St. Mary's or Pilates Early Learning Center now.
All right.
So just double check that. The other thing I wanted to ask about, and it's when we look at all these demographics that you have, we still have an undercounting of the Hispanic population in the city. Not throwing stones or anything, and I think that sometimes gets reflected in household income and per capita income, because you may in fact have two cousins living with the family that are contributing to that household income. I know it's an issue when they're trying to adjudicate in the pre-K programs in Howard County. They've got that issue. They don't know how to deal with it. And I'm sure we have a similar problem in the city. The last thing I wanted to mention, do we know how much capacity will be added when they finish the expansion at WSSC, the filtration plant? The construction's ongoing right now.
No, I do not.
Okay, so in my mind, I'm just trying to think ahead, 10 years or 20 years. We still got this elephant in the corner of the room, which is Conterra, which is gonna have a significant drain on the potable, water resources. And, I mean, there's other places in this area that'll be drawing upon that. So again, that might be something that your office might wanna just ask the people at WSSC, what will happen to the capacity, so you can put that away, file that away somewhere. And it's a great job. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Mr. Lewis. Ms. Nicholas?
Yes, I'd like to reserve the right to come back and ask you a question. I'm trying to locate in my book one of the maps that you had on display. I'm trying to take a closer look at that, so I'd like to ask it a little.
Mr. Spallins, anything else?
I just want to kind of dovetail on what Donna was talking about in terms of annual income
Per capita.
per capita. There is, first of all, a lot of very good information, as we would expect in this master plan. I just want to take a snapshot of one on page 32, education levels. And I think the education levels increase. In the education levels, we're up as per the 2010 census. It appears that the city of Laurel is leading the area jurisdictions in education levels. That is, people of high school graduates and above at 91.8%. And I think that has a direct tie to annual household incomes, A. And I think B, in looking at the fact that, we're in an age of millennials who are not looking to buy houses, who are renting, and that contributes to the high-end apartment stock that we have in the city. And it seems to me, in traditionally, apartment dwellers have sort of been overlooked when it's come to city involvement, elections, that kind of thing. I think we're going to start seeing a trend where these apartment dwellers that are coming into the city now are going to be much more involved in the city, are going to participate a lot more. They're young, they're educated, and they're looking to be involved. And I think it certainly behooves anyone who is in elected office or seeking elected office to pay close attention to that group. So apartments, I'm saying that to say that apartments should not be something that, as we're considering bringing people into the city in terms of involvement, should not be overlooked by any means. They have the money and they have the education.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mayor?
Yeah, I think Fred brings up a good point. A lot of people insinuate just because you rent property, your house or your apartment, that you're not part of the community or city. I think that's a false statement. And I think that, as you just said, with this age group coming in, you're going to see more and more engaged in the community. They just don't happen to want to own. And I know that has always been a concern of some in the community, that rental property is not really part of the community, and I just would disagree with that. Jack, the other thing is, did you all have any discussion regarding condos?
We had a very brief discussion. We were told that there's really currently no market
Right.
for condominiums.
Okay,
And so they weren't building those types of units.
okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Les?
Of the watershed, when we get our drinking water, actually in Howard County. Dams are now. That's good. Good source sometimes. 40% service area, goes all the way up to Damascus. Like, how much water are they gonna be able to treat up in that plant in the future? What is the resident? So I'm asking, and the county. Our county. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Les. Maybe after summer is over with a new leadership up at WSSC, maybe we could seek out someone to come down and update us on what some of these questions are.
Yeah, they've got some good engineers up there. A couple of them serve on Tufts River. They're very knowledgeable, potable water, other areas. But again, you do remember, our water's coming from that watershed, it's not coming out of the rest of the water down. Southern side, this is coming.
I like that.
You like that?
I do.
All right.
Mayor, you got something else? Good. Timeline for this?
Yes, timeline for this is firstly, was this meeting, and then it's recommended to go to the first public hearing. This is adopted by an ordinance, so it goes through an ordinance procedure. And then the second public hearing is the end of July 25th. At that time, you can adopt should you choose.
I'm sure we could be prepared to have it done in,
State agencies asking. Did you get everything you all need from the
We
state?
got a response back from the state agencies. Those were included in the plan.
I don't see any reason why we can't have this done at our last meeting in July. Hmm?
I think it would be beneficial if we could. I think they're ready.
Is that okay? Is
Certainly.
that okay with council?
Yeah, Mr. President, I'd just like to ask if the council feels that it's necessary that maybe we add a second brief work session. Just, there's a lot of information here to digest, and I'm sure there'll be other questions that may come up as we continue to go through this. So before a vote is called, maybe if we had a 30-minute, 15, 20-minute work session prior to meeting, just to, Councilwoman Nicholas mentioned that she has some questions, whether she presents them tonight or at a later time, just to give us an opportunity to,
I'm working out with
kinda
the
wrap it
mayor
all
and
up.
Samp
Okay.
and
Yeah.
have that happen.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Is the map done separately or is this all together?
It's all together.
Because that may be where some questions come in, right? Is on the map.
The annexation map.
No,
City boundary,
the what?
city boundaries?
No, Christ, I just lost the terminology.
Changing zoning, any potential changes.
Yeah.
No, there was no
Oh.
recommended section map amendments.
Mapping, okay. But is that included? Can we do that again or just leave that alone?
Just leave it alone.
So how did they know that it was reflected that we were looked at beneath the process? How will it be added to the record that we reviewed the map and there's no changes? Should that be part of the ordinance? I didn't see anything in there.
No, the only change was to this map, which is your future land use map, which was at MXT in the top left corner. That enables the owner to come back and rezone, but that's not a sectional map.
Yeah, but is the sectional map amendment required to be reviewed by every 10 years as well or not?
No.
Oh, okay, I thought that was too.
But do you want that language in the resolution?
No, I thought it was required by law as well, but if it's not, I'm okay.
Well, Mayor, should we reference it somehow in the ordinance?
I mean, you think anybody's,
That it was looked at and there is no sectional map amendment?
We can certainly do that.
I mean, I got a letter today that they may come in and try to ask council to take a look at a piece of property, which would affect the sectional map amendment, right? So I don't know if they'll come or not, but I just wanted to be prepared. Okay.
Can you work that out with them and then alter the resolution if we have to?
Mhm.
Okay, and we'll do a small work session and we'll get together and plan that. Okay, council? Okay.
So let me make, so Monday, the 11th, we'll go with what has been presented. If it needs to be changed, a sectional map or anything else, changes come forward to council, then it'll be amended. But other than that, we wouldn't put anything in the ordinance that reflects a sectional map amendment. We could just say that under our remarks, which I think would cover that during the vote as well. And so,
Okay.
so you're okay with
I'm okay.
for Monday? Okay.
Karen, you okay?
I was just talking to Mr. Dodd and saying that although it may not be legally required, I think that it might be worth a whereas clause in the ordinance just for
That's-
posterity's sake, so we follow what happened here.
That's what I was thinking.
You can add that, right? Whereas, yeah. You're cheaper than she is, so make sure you add.
All right, anything else from anybody? All right, we are adjourned. Do your homework.